The very simplified version to make your own wood stain is to put in paint, put in some type of a solvent, and then shake it up in a closed container, and that is your stain. Today we're going to be using oil-based paint and we're going to be using lacquer thinner, and the combination of those two things makes a really great mixture, and we're going to be putting it in these tiny jars so that we can shake it up, because you constantly need to agitate your mixture in order to get nice, clean, even results. Now, in order to test this before I batched everything out, I went ahead and put in some oil-based paint into this container. I mixed it up with some lacquer thinner, and then I had a fairly good result. I wasn't completely happy because I still had the ability to pick up some areas that didn't fully dissolve into the lacquer thinner, and that would completely ruin a piece. So in order to do it right, I went ahead and got a bunch of these little jars. I put in the paint, I put in the lacquer thinner, and the nice part is you can just shake it up and you're going to have a nice even result. One of the things about lacquer thinner is it evaporates very quickly. So if you leave this mixture out overnight, you're going to have just a really crusty, nasty thing left over. The nice thing is you can use like old spaghetti sauce jars, anything like that, and you can still keep these in the corner of the shop, and they're going to keep for a very long time. Now, agitating them is really important just to make sure that your mixture is nice and even, because the last thing that you want to do is dip a paintbrush in here and not get a nice even coat on the piece that you've worked so hard to make. Now, speaking of the piece that we're going to be making today, we're going to be making a manger scene, and we're going to be making a very minimalist version of the manger scene, and all of those different parts are very small, and we need different colors to be able to differentiate those parts in the scene overall. If we were to go out to a big box store and purchase all of these different colors, we would easily be spending $100, and that is not something that we need to do for this specific project. That's one of the things that really shines with mixing your own stains at home, is you can create a variety of colors extremely quickly. I think this whole process took me less than 5 minutes to make all of the stains that you see right here, and it took very little paint. You can use very cheap oil-based paints that you get offline, and that's exactly what I did for this project. One of the drawbacks though is it's going to be really hard to exactly replicate this color. Of course, you can measure things, you can weigh things in the way that you're mixing things and get fairly good results, but I don't think that you're ever going to get Pantone results when mixing your own colors at home. So take this yellow for instance. I think it's a really nice vibrant color, but you could easily change the transparency of it by putting in some more lacquer thinner or by putting in some more paint. And the second that you do that, you're kind of messing up all the other stuff that you've already done, especially if you've already applied this to a project and you're looking to replicate that. Always mix more than you think you're going to need for your project, and if you know that you're going to be doing this with multiple projects, mix up a lot of it at once, or if you're getting to that point, maybe you do need to spend the money and buy the colored stain from the store. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our project. We're going to be using 1/2-inch plywood with this, and the reason that I'm doing that is just to show you the fit and how things work out if anybody is grabbing any old 1/2-inch plywood and using these files in particular. If you want the best out of these files, use MDF, and you're going to be able to get a really great result that you don't even need to finish. It's still going to look great, and it's going to be ready to be used immediately off of the CNC machine. But today, in order to show off all of the awesome possibilities with mixing your own stain, I am going to be using plywood. So we put down the 1/2-inch plywood, and we're going to be using tabs with this, so I don't put down a huge amount of double-sided tape on the back, just a little bit to make sure that it is sticking and there's no bowing on the machine once we put down the material. So our 60° is just going to go in and it's going to carve a star. It's going to take less than 5 seconds to do that process, and that's really all that we needed it for, but it really does make a big difference in the final product. Next, we're going to be putting in our Downtown Jenny, which is the second of the 3 bits that you need to CNC with me. Right now, if you're purchasing one of these bits during the month of July, you're automatically going to be entered to win one of the golden tickets if you use code Hamilton at checkout. Go ahead and check the link in the description. Once all these pieces are done being cut out, we now have to go in and break our tabs. Yes, if you watch the channel, you know that I very rarely use tabs because I absolutely hate them, and today was no different. I was reminded why I do not use tabs and why I do not enjoy them. Now, the thought process is you have small parts, so you put on tabs to make sure that they aren't flying everywhere. And I oftentimes just cover the entire back of the piece of material in double-sided tape so I don't have to worry about that. It can be somewhat of a pain sometimes to peel off the tape off of small parts, but nowhere near the pain it is to actually cut off tabs and then try and flatten those things. I took them all over to the sander, and I did a fairly good job of getting all the tabs off. That was easy. But all of just the split off and everything that you get from tabs and trying to break them with chisels or oscillating tools, some people love it. I personally don't. So after all that was said and done and we have finished up the sanding process, we have this. Absolutely beautiful manger scene, if I do say so myself. Now this is minimalist, meaning that you're supposed to just understand the different parts and how they fit with each other. So over here we have our wise men, over here we have our shepherds and maybe some type of a sheep. We have Joseph, we have Mary, we have the baby Jesus, and then we have the star, which is held together by these different pieces that come and kind of pinch and create a little bit of a friction like a capstone. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. Now, beliefs aside, if you look at woodworking projects overall, a lot of these things sell every single holiday season, which is why we're focusing on it specifically in Christmas and July. And it has a ton of different parts that we can show off how to actually go about the staining process and make a really nice finished piece. If you do want the files specifically for this, they'll be available in Vectric, Carveco, DXF, and SVG files over on cncwithme.com. Right now we're running a special through the end of July. If you want to sign up, you get a little bit off. Link will be down in the description. So let's take this apart and do a little bit of staining and see how these colors actually turn out on wood. So we're going to put all these face up the way that I have them set up right here. And we're just going to be staining the fronts and the sides. These pieces are absolutely incredible. I love how they like pinch the piece. And then old Joseph and Mary right here, how they're embracing around little circle Jesus is awesome. Lovely. So last week we were using this Bamcore material, and this was really great to show off how you can achieve different depths in a solid bamboo material like this. It'll be linked down below if you're interested. But you can see how nice and very few voids there is, and the different layers that you're interacting with. It doesn't give you a poor product at the end of the day. Whereas plywood, it does not look as good when you're trying to show off the different layers and depth, because the consistency is just not there in the layers. You also might be running into some cracks and voids that you're probably not going to get on a material like this Bamcore. You really want to make sure to actually shake this thing up as well as you possibly can before you're putting your coat. Now, if it is in a jar like this, you can easily flip this over and just see right there if anything is sticking to the bottom of the jar, because you definitely don't want to be able to pick up any pieces in there and then rub it all over your finished project. That is really a great way to screw things up. So since we're using oil-based paint, we're using lacquer thinner in this. We also want to make sure that we're wetting our brushes with lacquer thinner. That's what I'm going to be cleaning it off. You don't want to have water in this process at all, unless you're using water-based paint and you're using water as your solvent, which is a little bit different of a process. I think you're going to get a much better result using lacquer-based stuff. There's no clumps on the brush. You don't see any kind of like big chunks or anything, and that means we're going to get a nice even coat. Obviously, you don't have to check this every single time, but it's really, really great when you're wetting your brush with the stain just to look down and make sure that there's no big chunks. And then we're just going to put this yellow on fairly liberally. Since this is a small piece, we're not worried a ton about brush direction, really just making sure that the entire area is coated. If you did want the color to be a little bit more vibrant, when you first put it on, you'll be able to put in more paint in this, shake it up, make sure that it's nice and mixed, and that is going to be a little bit better of an option if you're looking for that. Now, for me in stain, I think a nice thin coat is perfect. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these coated, and we'll see you all in a second. So that was fairly simple, and that is one of the biggest reasons why you should be doing this. You can mix it up very easily, and you can put down stain extremely fast on any type of project that you have. If you're making a one-off project for yourself or for a family member or whatever, and you really just need color quick, this is the way to do it. It's going to be cheap, fast, easy. Now, for our specific one, I wanted to have every one of these pieces be a different color, and this was a really great way to achieve that. So right here in this manger scene, we have Joseph, we've got little baby Jesus, and then we have Mary right here. Now, next we have another hugging piece. This is going to be the arch up top. And if we put this here, the white stain that I made and put on here, I do think that it helps show off the yellow of the star, but other than that, it doesn't do a ton to the plywood. All right, and then next up, I have what I am going to call the shepherds, and like the sheep, maybe. Then over here, we're going to have the wise men. And there you go. It is a very simple project using a lot of very simple techniques to create something fun that I'm sure if you make and show off to family and friends, they're going to say, hey, can you make one for me? The reason that I chose to do this out of plywood is to show off the staining techniques and how absolutely simple it is to do at home. But if you are wanting to do this and you're wanting to sell it, by far a way to speed up the process and put a lot more profit in your pocket is going to be able to make this out of MDF. Not using any type of tabs, going ahead and putting down double-sided tape on the back of your material, cutting out all of those parts. And once you take that double-sided tape off, you can just use some foam back sandpaper, quickly knock down the edges, and you are ready to go. I wouldn't even put any type of finish on it because it's not going to come anywhere in contact with water. It's going to be a nice, easy project that you can make for markets and sell for $20 or $30 and know that you have a lot of profit built in for yourself. If you want to go this route and make it out of wood, out of plywood, or out of a different type of wood and use all these different stains, I think that it really does create something fairly unique. This right here is a picture of Mitz's version that he made. Do y'all like my stain colors or do y'all like Mitz's stain colors better? Let me know down in the comments below. So I know that a lot of people are going to take this information and immediately use it for water-based stuff, and there's a few reasons why I would not do that. First and foremost, the majority of the water-based paint that you have laying around is going to be latex, and it is going to mix into that water a little bit, but it's not going to stay long-term like this lacquer base is going to, so you definitely can for a one-off instance, but I definitely would not store it. As well as storage, if your shop is not temperature controlled, it definitely can freeze and that can cause issues further on. So if you are doing this, I would go ahead and use oil-based paint and you lacquer thinner or some type of a paint thinner or mineral spirits. You can still get fairly good results from those. I'm mainly using lacquer thinner because that's what I have here in the shop. We have a very big project next week, like the biggest project that I think that I've made on the channel, size-wise. So I'm very excited to see how it turns out. I've never made one before, so hopefully it will inspire you to actually go make one as well. Thank you to all of the CNC With Me members. None of this would be possible without y'all. I really do appreciate it, and I love that everybody's getting some value out of these videos and projects, and I really hope that y'all are jumping over on the website and grabbing all of those Carveco Christmas files, because they're only going to be available during the month of July. I'm shutting all that down right when August 1st hits. So if you haven't picked them up, go ahead and jump over to the community, go to the dashboard, you'll see Carveco Christmas, and there's an absolute load of files. It's a lot. So thank y'all very much, and I will be seeing y'all next Friday. Bye.